So we're at Media Days, and the term "best never rests" has surfaced quite a few times. Brock Bowers sort of previewed it for us. Kamari Lassiter said it. I did not hear Cedric Van Pran say it, but then after 15 minutes of talking, Kirby Smart went for it.
Yeah, look.
What's your take on the?
I mean, Kirby Smart. We're talking about this a little bit at lunch, but Kirby Smart is a genius motivator. Right?
Okay.
I think that's the best way to put it. He knows how to get guys going, and he comes up with all these phrases that they all seem to really buy into over and over again. I mean, it feels like that there's no limit to how many motivational phrases he comes up with over these last 7 years, and the players buy in. And if that's what works for them and getting them to all unite, right? I think last year that word connection was kind of a culmination of all of it. All of these Kirby Smart sayings and mottos. I think that last year's was the culmination when they used the word connection. But best never rests, I think the timing of that phrase is probably good for motivation. When you are the best, you just won 2 years in a row. So as far as timing, I'd say that's a good model for now.
One thing that Kirby was talking about earlier today that I think maybe people don't pay as much attention to is that he says he reads some, or at least a fair amount. He probably reads more than I do, to be honest with you. And I think that's where he is getting a lot of this stuff from, to be honest. There's a lot to be said for researching and understanding organizations and sports teams, et cetera, however you want to describe them. Everybody now is calling their teams organizations, their programs. That was not the case 15 years ago. But I think best never rests that's where they're at. Right now they're the best. And the question is, can they continue to do that? I think they can. I think that it'll be challenging for them to lose in the regular season. It doesn't mean they can't. They got to go to Auburn. They got to go to Tennessee. They host South Carolina. They play the Gators. But they are better than those teams are. And if they really are the best, then they will get challenged even if they are the best this season.
Yeah.
They always do.
They do, even if it's to a team you don't think it's going to be. But the season, even if they go undefeated again and then they pull it off again, it's not going to be without its challenges. I think it's those little things that they do that helps them in fourth quarter moments when they're maybe down or they need to score. All of these off the field things and all of these motivational sentiments and the skull sessions and all that. It's all of that stuff that culminates to being able to go out there and put together a fourth quarter comeback drive.
Well, we've seen this team and this program do that. They came back on both Ohio State as well as Mizzou. We were both at the Mizzou.
That's a great shot.
It is. Thank you very much. I don't know who got that shot.
Like that.
Well, anyway, we're gonna talk about those images. Javon Bullard came up a lot today, even though he's not here. Make sure you're taking advantage of this offer while we've got it. 2022 season preview is included with our publication of Bulldogs. So take advantage of that. Now, I don't know how much longer we're going to be doing this. We are at Media Days right now, so this is not going that's not going to last much longer. The link is down below. It was good to hear from Cedric Van Pran is definitely an adult. I got to spend a fair amount of time with him today. This is his second Media Days in a row. He was only one of 5 players in all of the SEC to go to Media Days 2 years in a row. But
he was here. Wow, I did not put that together until just now. I did not even think about that.
He was here last year. He's a little bit. I think he's a little bit taller than me. He's certainly heavier than I am. But heavier, more muscular than I am. But I talked with him about calling plays coming out of the huddle and so forth. And just his take on football and so forth. But I think one thing that sticks out to me, and a lot of these things they're spilling out of my mouth right now. I'm trying to talk about everything that happened today, but I want to stay on to the point, which was the fact that they are in a position that very few teams have been in college football history. Nebraska in 1996, I think. Alabama in 2013. I mean, Alabama may well have been the best team in college football in 2013 and lost on a miracle play.
Yeah, kick six.
Kick six.
Yeah.
And they probably would have gone on to play for They would have gone on to play for the SEC championship and likely the national championship had the Miracle on the Plains not happened. So in a 3-week span, Auburn had 2 miracle plays, and that stopped Alabama. That's what stopped Alabama from winning a third national championship.
Yeah.
Would they have beaten Florida State for sure? I don't know. But
They were a better team than Auburn that year, probably.
Georgia?
Alabama
was,
yeah.
but they didn't win the game.
Exactly. And that is something that could happen to Georgia this year.
Correct.
They could look like the best team, and we think that they're the best team. And
they didn't win. Like, who was the best team last year, Ohio State or Georgia?
Georgia was the better team.
Okay, but
yeah.
they almost lost that
But they
game.
almost lost to
How
Ohio
about the
State.
Mizzou? I mean,
And
is there any question
it's the same
at
thing
all?
with Mizzou.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
some of these,
Someone's going to challenge them.
Yeah, at some point, it's going to happen if it doesn't happen more than once, right? I would imagine that it probably happens more than once, that they get challenged at least a little bit where it's not just a breeze.
It's been 2 times. It's been 2 times a season about.
So in 21, obviously the SEC championship.
Well, you got the SEC championship, Clemson, and then also I would say the national championship. Those are the 3 games. A season ago, you have Missouri and Ohio State. I was talking to someone that I've known for a long time and trust a lot, and he does not cover Georgia anymore, but he was saying, Georgia, you just watch. It has to be boring after a while. But you and I get into the habit of at half. Like if the game's not put away, our game plan changes.
Look, we root for blowouts in a way sometimes.
Well, I totally root for blowouts.
For work purposes, it makes things less stressful.
It matters a lot for me.
It makes things
personally
less stressful, but
it makes it easier.
You look at their schedule this year, and the first thing that pops in your head is this is much easier, right, than the last couple of years. And that part of that is just because of that 1 non-conference game being removed, and people would totally look at that differently if Oklahoma was still on the schedule. But
I think Georgia would smoke
either
Oklahoma.
way. Well, yeah, I think so too. But that would have been in Norman this year.
It would have been in Norman.
Yeah. So people look at that and that being removed and call it a cupcake schedule. Maybe in the grand scheme of things,
does it annoy you that people call it that?
No, because I get where they're coming from, but you gotta. I mean, just because they're a much better team doesn't mean they're going to go in there and win by 50 points.
Well, they were really challenged by this Georgia team was challenged by at least 3 teams that we didn't really expect. Obviously, Missouri. I think Georgia Tech challenged them. I have to say. Florida Gators
Kent
as well.
State gave them some problems.
Kent State certainly gave them trouble, but they gave themselves enough trouble that by their lonesome that day.
You can go through and pinpoint a lot of moments throughout 2022, an undefeated, a perfect season without any blemishes on it, right? Well, that's a different conversation, but you can go through that and find many places where they're challenged, and it's going to happen again this year. And there's different people, right? I mean, there's different people in different positions. Carson Beck, Mike Bobo, those are the things that people go back into. They keep going back to say that, well, is this team going to be as good as it was? That's one of the things that people point at a lot. But they're going to get challenged, and I think it's a really good thing for Georgia that they start off the season with those, quote-unquote cupcake games. It's a good thing. I think it's good for them.
You weren't there, but it was curious to hear Kirby say, I don't know that multiple quarterbacks are going to play in the first game or 2. So he's not assuming anything about the beginning of the season with Ball State and the other team I can't recall, Tennessee Martin. I think for me it's always been this way. It's not who you play, it's how you play. And Georgia has proven that if they play as well as they can play, they will not lose. But the other thing I've noticed with my decades of experience covering these events is that Kirby is now, I would say for sure, on the same level or universe. He's in the same universe of attention that Nick Saban has had in his time. When Nick first got to Alabama, when any Alabama coach came around, that is a media shitstorm, particularly when it's in Birmingham. I remember quite clearly when Mike Shula was the Alabama head coach, and that just was just chaotic. But with Nick, it's been even more so. And today in Tennessee, there are a lot of people who are interested in asking Kirby Smart a question. No questions today, really. There were some questions, actually. I shouldn't say there weren't. very few questions about speeding. That was not the focus. The allegations that have been printed in the AJC, not many questions about that at all. But really, Kirby had a monologue for 15 minutes.
Yeah, he went 14 minutes. He went over the time he said he was going to go
14:40.
over. That was probably the first and only time that's going to happen, where he goes over the time he wanted to go.
Now, yeah, he'll never do that again.
He set a 10-minute alarm and he went like 14 minutes. But he was in a light mood, in my opinion.
He was in a light mood.
Granted,
He actually
with
said
everything
hello to me
going
when we
on.
were walking the hallway.
He
I was like,
did.
"What's happening right now?"
He did. I want whatever he took this morning.
No, he's had. Yeah, he's. Again, I was talking to someone else. We're not going to say who it was at lunch, but I always say this, or I say this a lot. I do worry about Kirby because I think he has a lot of stress. He's not my friend. I don't know him personally, but I think he does have a lot of things that he has to handle and deal with. I think that there are things that he can control that he could control better. But that's a part of that job, and there is a lot going on at Georgia right now that the institution has not dealt with probably since Jan Kemp. And if you don't know who that is, then that tells you how long ago it was. But there really is a real challenge right now at Georgia, and on top of that, they are the most or second most watched program in the country, or third. I mean, it depends on the year a little bit, but it's Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama, not necessarily in that order. And so they are a huge entity. And, there's a lot that he's having to go through, having to process. He was talking about upsetting people today. You wrote about that. I don't know if you wrote about it, but you texted on our text chain about disappointing people or whatever you were calling.
Yeah, he was talking about just when you're a leader, different things that you're going to have to accept. And they're, negative things. Not everyone's going to like you. You're not going to please everyone when you make a decision. He's very aware. He's always seemed to be very aware of what's in front of him and what's around him. He
is a very intelligent person.
So,
and I think that's that should not be, that part should not be underestimated, generally speaking. He is not a typical football coach. This is not, and I don't mean this bad, but this isn't, I'm not even going to say names, but, this is not a typical college football coach. But to me, in my opinion, and this is just me, that's where there's even more responsibility on Kirby, because he's, there's a lot being invested in these young men, and a lot, and young women in the program too. And I think that, Georgia has got a responsibility to do the best it can for all of these people who invest time, money, and effort, particularly the players in the program. And it's a lot on Kirby, no doubt. But this guy is reading, he says. I don't know how he's got time to read. He was talking about his Julycation. What was it called? Julymas. I will have to write that one down, because we do get Christmas in the Legge household, at least. But I know what he's talking about, but it's worse for them.
Because they're always traveling during the holidays.
They've only ever been to one Liberty Bowl. Every other game has been a New Year's Six bowl game, which means you were saying. Will Muschamp told me one time that Thanksgiving was just another meal. I mean, that's tough, man. So, with all of that notwithstanding, what is it again? Best never rest?
Yes. Oh, man.
How can you not know that, Ryan?
Best never rest. Is that what he said? I think he said better never rest.
Well, we're going to go straight to Dog Post here and see what he said.
Better never rest.
He says, oh my gosh, I can't believe I don't have that written down. I have it written down, but, well, whatever. Better never rest. There you go. And we're just going to see. I mean, he was talking about, too, with this team, is the leadership better than it was a year ago? He said, well, that's a moving target. And he said that, I don't know why people talk about leadership so much, by the way. And what I mean by that is it is sort of code for, I've always felt it when folks talk about it, they're saying it because they either, I don't like the discussion of leadership sometimes, because leadership often is in the eye of the beholder. And like he was talking about earlier today, sometimes you can really piss people off with leadership, but it's the right move for your organization. but he was saying that the leadership is not an ending thing. It's probably a circle, to be honest. It's constant. You have to constantly lead. I was talking to Ben Jones downstairs, talking about having to lead his 3 children, and how hard that was every single day. But anyway, I think the global point here: can these guys win it again? They will probably be picked to win the SEC championship. It will be the first time since 2015, if I'm not mistaken, that someone other than Alabama, that someone other than Alabama has been picked to win the SEC championship. That year, if my memory serves correct, was Auburn, who I can confirm did not win the SEC championship that week or that year. But Kirby's the first person to win 2 national championships since Nick Saban arrived. He's the first person to win 2 SEC championships since Nick Saban arrived. Only one other program, Auburn, has won multiple SEC championships since Nick Saban's arrived. This thing has been totally dominated by Nick, and now we're going to see if better never rests. Because if that's true, that means that they will do it again.
That's a good way to end it.
We'll just see if that happens.